Hey heroes, welcome to another amazing episode of History of the Marvel Universe. This channel is sponsored in part by Patreon supporters. If you would like to vote in monthly polls that help decide what topics get covered on the channel, you can sign up for $1 per month over at patreon.com/MaryMarvelite. The link for that is in the description along with other places you can find me. The Skrull known as Kl'rt was born on Tarnax 4, the throne world of his people in the Andromeda Galaxy. Not much has been said about his childhood, but he has reportedly had a fairly unremarkable upbringing. With no real family to speak of, he graduated from the Skrullian Military Academy and subsequently served as a soldier in the Kree-Skrull War. While his service record was fairly undistinguished, Kl'rt's life would soon take a fantastic turn. You see, things really started when a foursome of Skrulls were sent to infiltrate the planet Earth. As part of that plot, the Skrulls impersonated the superhuman heroes, the Fantastic Four. But ultimately they were discovered and defeated, halting their plans for invasion. Following this, the Skrull Emperor, Dorrek VII, established an enhancement program in an attempt to produce a superpowered champion of his own. Several soldiers were chosen to participate, but it would be Kl'rt who became the program's greatest success. Endowed with the abilities of each member of the Fantastic Four, Kl'rt henceforth became known as the Super-Skrull. In addition to his species' standard shape-shifting abilities, he could also stretch his body to great lengths like Mr. Fantastic. He could manipulate fire and engulf his body in flame even in the vacuum of space. He possessed super strength and durability like the Thing, and the invisibility powers of the Invisible Girl. Interestingly, although the latter had not yet displayed her ability to generate invisible force fields when the Super-Skrull was created, both would soon develop this power independently. The Super-Skrull could also use his various abilities in unison, shape-shifting his hands to mimic the Thing's while employing super strength and often using the Torch's powers at the same time to create a rocky flaming fist. In addition to these abilities and his innate racial traits, the Super-Skrull was also endowed with a kind of super hypnosis power, allowing him to quickly mesmerize opponents. In order to fuel all of these abilities, he was implanted with artificial power receptors that draw in ambient cosmic energy. While uncharged on an Earth-like environment, each of the Super-Skrull's abilities normally operate at approximately half the strength of their Fantastic Four counterparts. However, when fully charged with cosmic energy, he could burn hotter than the Torch, lift more than the Thing, and stretch further than Mr. Fantastic. To maintain this level of power, the Super-Skrull originally relied on an energizing beam originating from an asteroid in the Tarnax system. When the Super-Skrull traveled to Earth to challenge the Fantastic Four, this power beam was routed through hyperspace conduits to reach him from an entire galaxy away. And so in their first battle, the Super-Skrull easily overpowered his superhuman opponents. However, Mr. Fantastic successfully jammed the Skrullian power beam, weakening Kl'rt enough for them to imprison him on an island in the North Atlantic. But this proved to be a temporary measure as the Skrulls on Tarnax were able to adjust the beam and restore the Super-Skrull. As part of his revenge, he impersonated Dr. Franklin Storm, the father of the Human Torch and the Invisible Girl, sending the real Storm back to Skrull space. The fake Dr. Storm publicly dubbed himself the Invincible Man and battled the Fantastic Four. But Mr. Fantastic deduced their foe's true identity based on the powers he displayed. Not wishing to risk another failure, Emperor Dorrek retrieved the Super-Skrull. He also returned his captive to Earth with an explosive beam generator affixed to his body. But Dr. Storm sacrificed his own life to save his children by pressing his chest to the ground and taking the full force of the blast himself. Fearing that the Super-Skrull's powers might allow him to challenge his rule, the Emperor used Kl'rt's losses as an excuse to publicly denounce him. Dorrek then sentenced the Super-Skrull to a mundane patrol duty along the Empyre's borders. During his exile, he was manipulated by Loki into battling the mighty Thor, but was defeated and returned to his duties. He was subsequently called back to the Skrull capital when a Kree presence was detected on Earth. Not just any Kree, but one their people had battled many times, Captain Mar-Vell. Dorrek offered any prize if Kl'rt was able to learn Mar-Vell's purpose on Earth, and the Super-Skrull set his sights on the Emperor's daughter, Anelle. In their first battle, Kl'rt's varied power set allowed him to emerge victorious. Mar-Vell was held captive, but the Skrullian psychic probes were unable to discover the purpose of his mission. The Kree hero ultimately escaped and battled the Super-Skrull once again. This time Mar-Vell successfully turned Kl'rt's hypnotic power against himself and ordered the mesmerized Super-Skrull to retreat into deep space. After that, he was assigned to an obscure military position, but the Kree-Skrull War was beginning to heat up once again. Alongside Skrull General Anelle, Kl'rt fought in the Battle of Harkoon, one of the bloodier conflicts during the war. After Anelle's death, the Super-Skrull led his men to victory, but not without Skrull casualties. For his valor, he was rewarded with a wife, a beautiful countess from the planet Zaragzna, birthplace of the Skrullian deity Kl'rt. The Countess bore Kl'rt a son named Sarnog and a daughter, Jazinda, and for the first time the Super-Skrull had a real family. However, he was soon called back to the war, eventually leading him to be estranged from his wife and children. Meanwhile, Dorrek was still concerned that Kl'rt might challenge his reign and decided to send him on missions he would likely fail. The Emperor was losing popularity after the Super-Skrull program nearly bankrupted the Empire, but Kl'rt himself was seen as a hero to most of his people. The Super-Skrull was ordered to return to Earth to capture Mar-Vell and destroy the Inhumans, an offshoot of humanity created by the Kree. While he failed in the latter task, he did manage to abduct Mar-Vell after impersonating his human ally, Carol Danvers. However, as the Super-Skrull returned to Tarnax with his captive, Dorrek ordered the Skrullian military to open fire on him. Kl'rt was imprisoned, but Mar-Vell escaped and joined forces with Dorrek's daughter, Anelle. The two asked the Super-Skrull to join them, but despite everything, he refused to turn against his Emperor. Although he did shapeshift into Mar-Vell in prison to help cover their escape and give them more time together. The union of Mar-Vell and Princess Anelle later resulted in the birth of a hybrid child, Prince Dorrek VIII. Meanwhile, the Super-Skrull escaped from his cell and fled the Skrull galaxy. He subsequently joined forces with a Skrull scientist named Skrog, who recruited him into the service of the mad Titan Thanos. This led to yet another clash between the Super-Skrull and Mar-Vell. During this time, while hunting for the Cosmic Cube on Earth, Thanos left Kl'rt in charge of his forces on Saturn's moon Titan. Thanos also gave him a weapon that would supposedly protect him in case of an attack. However, this it seems was a lie, as the orb did nothing to help in a subsequent battle against Captain Mar-Vell. Although defeated once again, Kl'rt survived and subsequently hid on Earth. Assuming the identity of Joshua Plague, he took control of a band of human criminals called the Rat Pack. During this time, he attempted to claim a weapon known as the Soul Catcher. However, he revealed his true form after being challenged by Tigra and the Native American hero Red Wolf. And because of their interference, Super-Skrull ended up being trapped within the Soul Catcher himself. Not wanting the same to happen to anyone else, Tigra brought the weapon to Mr. Fantastic for safekeeping. But sometime later, Spider-Man, the Wasp, and Yellowjacket battled the villain Equinox in the Fantastic Four's headquarters atop the Baxter Building. During that battle, the Soul Catcher was inadvertently released from stasis, allowing the Super-Skrull to escape. He attempted to use the FF's technology to find a way off of Earth, but was discovered by Spider-Man and the Human Torch. He successfully found a Cavorite crystal that could be used as a catalyst for an interstellar warp drive, but was also challenged by Carol Danvers, who by this point had become a superhero herself as Ms. Marvel. Using the power beam that supplied Kl'rt with cosmic energy, Danvers and Spider-Man were able to supercharge the Cavorite crystal, converting the Super-Skrull into a living space warp and sending him back to the Tarnak system through the beam itself. There he remained trapped within the power beam generator as disembodied energy. Now, much happened during his confinement, including the death of his rival Mar-Vell, who succumbed to cancer. Emperor Dorrek also perished, betrayed and murdered by his own wife for a kill. However, she was also seemingly killed along with her daughter Anelle when the Skrull throne world was consumed by Galactus. Tarnax 4's destruction also released the Super-Skrull's energy form, which was carried once again by the power beam until it was ensnared in the Earth's Van Allen radiation belts. His presence there was detected by Canadian scientists at the Mount Logan Cosmic Ray Research Station. In their attempts to ascertain exactly what they were looking at, the scientists inadvertently pulled the Super-Skrull back to Earth, returning him to physical form. However, radiation poisoning left Kl'rt with a condition similar to leukemia, and he killed the humans at the research station. All except for Dr. Walter Langowski, who could transform into a hulking superhero called Sasquatch. Unaware of the throne world's destruction, Kl'rt mesmerized the Sasquatch and used him to build a machine to transport him home. But when the Super-Skrull's condition caused another surge of pain, Sasquatch broke free of his control and activated the transporter prematurely, sending Kl'rt back into the radiation belt. However, he was eventually found again, this time by the sorceress god of Kunlun, Master Khan. Khan returned Kl'rt to physical form and offered to cure his cancer if he helped destroy his enemy, the Iron Fist. The Super-Skrull agreed, but Khan mystically mesmerized him into believing that he was a terminally ill human child named Bobby Wright. As Bobby, Kl'rt believed that his illness was the result of exposure to alien spores, which also granted him superhuman powers. Powers he would utilize by transforming, or rather by shape-shifting, into the adult-looking Captain Hero. Master Khan also monitored the situation closely, both as Bobby's surly legal guardian and as an NYPD officer, Tyrone King, false identities created by magic. As Captain Hero, Bobby attacked both Power Man and Iron Fist in an attempt to impress them and join their heroes for hire business. While this didn't work out, he did aid them against the Celtic god of mischief, Brez. Ultimately, Bobby's condition worsened and he was left bedridden. Iron Fist used his chi to help keep the child alive, expending much of his own energy to do so. He passed out after stabilizing him, but the boy later awakened in tremendous pain. Crazed and desperate, Bobby transformed into Captain Hero and inadvertently beat Iron Fist to death while trying to rouse him. Well, it was later discovered that this wasn't actually the real Iron Fist, but a duplicate created by the plant-like people known as the Heil Three. Believing that Kl'rt had completed his mission, Master Khan reneged on his promise and returned the Super-Skrull to where he found him. Meanwhile, the Skrull Empire had fallen into a civil war following the destruction of their throne world. Furthermore, one of the Skrulls vying for the throne, a warlord named Zabek, detonated a hyperwave bomb that robbed all Skrulls of their shape-shifting abilities. In the midst of the unrest that followed, a Skrull woman named Sybil began her own bid for the title of Empress. Her plans involved the Super-Skrull, and so she dispatched an agent named Kl'rt to go restore him. Without his ability to shapeshift, Kl'rt was discovered by humans and fatally shot when he arrived on Earth. But before he succumbed to his wounds, he successfully fired an antimatter energy pulse into the planet's radiation belts. This energy reacted with Kl'rt's disembodied form, undoing the damage done to his body while pulling it back together. Thus, the Super-Skrull was fully restored, cured of his debilitating illness. However, he initially had no memory of his time as Captain Hero, with the last thing he recalled being his encounter with Sasquatch. he clashed with the Silver Surfer almost immediately after his revival, but both were captured by the Eternals of Earth, who at the time were working with the High Evolutionary. From them, Kl'rt learned of what happened to his people and their empire in his absence. The Silver Surfer and the Super-Skrull then worked together to escape from captivity. Since Kl'rt was the only remaining shape-shifting Skrull, the Surfer believed that he may have been the key to restoring his people and let him go. Using Kr't's ship, he returned to the Andromeda Galaxy and joined forces with the would-be Empress Sybil. And with the war with the Kree flaring up yet again, Kl'rt returned to the front lines as well. Sybil meanwhile sought an alliance with another alien race, the Badoon. However, the Badoon had already allied with the Kree and betrayed her. The Super-Skrull asked the Silver Surfer to help, but did not reveal that the Kree had sided with the Badoon. You see, the Surfer had promised to remain neutral in the Kree-Skrull War. And so when he helped save the Skrull fleet from the attacking Badoon, the Kree retaliated by launching an assault on his home planet, Anelle. The Skrull Armada then arrived to help repel the invaders, effectively forcing the Anellevians into an alliance. Following this, the Silver Surfer and the Super-Skrull combined their powers to endow Sybil with the ability to restore her people's shape-shifting abilities. Using this to draw more Skrulls to her side, Sybil became the new Skrull Empress, and Kl'rt was chosen not just as her champion, but also her consort. But soon after, she was targeted by the mysterious cosmic entity known only as the Stranger, who wished to study her new powers. Kl'rt tried to save her, but she was ultimately rescued by the Saurian space pirate Reptile. Wishing to replace Kl'rt with Reptile both as her lover and her warlord against the Kree, Sybil commanded the Super-Skrull to fake his death in battle against the space pirate. After his throat was torn out by the Saurian's teeth, Kl'rt fell into a healing coma to recover. Thinking him dead, the Silver Surfer attempted to let the body be cremated by falling into the atmosphere, but he was saved by his Human Torch powers, and so the heat only accelerated his recovery. The supposed corpse was then taken by the Badoon, who wished to study him, but the Super-Skrull awakened and slaughtered them before returning to the Empire. Although adored by his own people, Kl'rt felt great shame over his false defeat. This unrest caused him to pray at a statue of the war god Kl'rt. Recalling her mantra, death before dishonor, the Super-Skrull found and killed Reptile with his bare hands. Returning to their new throne world, Kl'rt confessed his insubordination and expected to be executed. Instead, Empress Sybil stripped him of his rank and assigned him to a lowly position under Navy Commander Katarg. Following this, his estranged wife also banished him from visiting their son Sarnog, with the last time he saw him being at the boys' first hunt. Kl'rt was subsequently dispatched to Earth to abduct Rick Jones, a human who previously played a pivotal role in the Kree-Skrull War. However, this put him into conflict with Jones's ally, the Incredible Hulk. In the ensuing battle, the Skrull ship that brought him was destroyed along with its crew, leaving Kl'rt stranded once again. Remembering his time as Captain Hero, he assumed the identity of Daniel Rand, Iron Fist's wealthy alter ego, who was still thought to be dead. His powers, of course, allowed him to easily imitate the Iron Fist's eponymous technique. Kl'rt assumed Danny's place at the head of the Rand Meacham Corporation and conspired with businessman Ward Meacham, restoring Ward to his former position as vice president of the company. Contacting his people, Kl'rt also promised Ward his own planet and marriage to a beautiful alien queen if he helped destroy the Earth. Ward's niece Joy was suspicious of the whole situation, but Kl'rt used his super hypnosis to keep her mollified. He also hypnotized Kazar, the Lord of the Savage Land, which played a key role in his plans. You see, the Savage Land was a prehistoric jungle hidden in the Antarctic whose tropical environment was maintained by machines built by an alien race called the Nuwali. The Super-Skrull plotted to turn these Nuwali devices against the Earth to completely destroy the environment and possibly the planet itself. He nearly succeeded, but was opposed by Namor the Submariner, his cousin Namorita, and Kazar's wife Shanna the She-Devil. Meanwhile, Namor's ally, Phoebe Mars, talked Ward out of betraying the Earth, citing that he may not appreciate his promised queen if she was only beautiful by Skrullian standards. And while beauty may be subjective, I think those who have seen the Lady Anelle, a Skrull who loved Kl'rt so much that she would marry a human at his command, would find her to be quite alluring. Regardless, Ward was convinced that the Super-Skrull would betray him and turned against him first. Kl'rt, of course, didn't take this lightly and quickly incinerated Ward Meacham, killing him. And unlike some of the other deaths we've mentioned today, this one actually stuck. His plans thwarted the Super-Skrull, fled, and subsequently left the Earth once again. Now, Kl'rt has been involved in plenty of other intergalactic events following this, including the Kree-Skrull War, the Infinity Crusade, and the Annihilation War. But that is all the time I have for you this week, so if you'd like a follow-up to this video exploring even more of the Super-Skrull's exploits, be sure to let me know. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it on your favorite social media. As always, feel free to let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in the comments, and as always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page, where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!